I can't even say this with a straight face. The fake swearing was so intercoursing bad, I can't believe it. Lauren, what the heck did you say? Yeah, I know, exactly. Hello friends, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel. Today I am reviewing a very big anticipated release being none other than Better Together by Christine Riccio. Before we go any further into this video, I just want to say I love Christine, I love her videos, and I will continue to support her and her YouTube channel and her books for probably many years to come. This video is just my opinion on Better Together and her books in general, so I just want to say no hate to her. I love her. This is purely a book review. So a few weeks ago, in anticipation for the release of Better Together, I reread Again But Better, which is her first book, and I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't really recommend that book because while I did enjoy the destination, I had a bunch of problems with the journey, so overall I would not recommend that book. So in this video, I really wanted to answer a question that I know I had coming into Better Together, and I'm sure other people have as well, is Better Together going to be better than Again But Better? How many times am I gonna say better in this video? We'll just have to wait and see. And long story short, I actually think the answer is yes. I'm gonna do my best to keep this video on the shorter side so you can easily understand more of what this book is about, my thoughts, opinions, all of that. So let's just jump straight into my non-spoiler thoughts for this video. Let's talk about what Better Together is actually about. And I've seen this described from a couple of different people and sources, so I feel like honestly this is the best way to describe it, but it is essentially a mashup between The Parent Trap and Freaky Friday. However, in this book, the girls are 18 and 20-year-old sisters, and their parents have had a clean but very messy divorce all at the same time. Both of these sisters, Siri and Jamie, end up reconnecting somehow, some way, and they end up wanting to, of course, if you know the story of The Parent Trap, wanting to bring their parents together to answer some questions. And honestly, that's all I'm gonna say about it because I feel like that's a pretty simple but thorough explanation of what the book is truly about. If you look up the synopsis online, it goes into a few more details, but I honestly feel like some of those details ruin some of the fun with the story, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But if you want to look up more information, by all means. So now let's talk about my rating and what I liked and didn't like. Right off the bat, I'm just gonna say I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I honestly feel like that might be shocking for some people because I know when I was going into this book, I was seeing a lot of negative reviews. And while I can understand a lot of those negative reviews, the main reason I think I gave this book the rating it did is because I just had fun with the story and was able to get through a lot of it fairly easily and had a lot of fun reading it. Don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna talk about some things I didn't like, but I just had fun for some parts in this book. So I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I feel like it deserves it, at least in my opinion, and I'll talk more about why, of course, throughout this entire video. I don't want to give too many details away about the book, but I really did enjoy the first and third quarter of the book, and I read this book over the course of one day, so especially if I didn't like the book, I would find that much more difficult than I did. While there were parts that I had to drag my feet through a little bit, there were also parts that made up for that. First thing I really want to talk about is our two main characters, Siri and Jamie. I thought they were both fleshed out pretty nicely, and I really enjoyed following both of their point of views. Typically when there's multiple points of views, you end up not liking one or you like one more than the other, and truthfully I liked them both. I'm not really sure which character I liked more, maybe Jamie, but honestly I thoroughly enjoyed reading about both sisters. I felt they were different enough in their voice and their interests and their values and in their character arcs overall, and I honestly just thought it was a really fun two people to read about. Secondly, a very big difference from Again But Better, but I actually liked the romance in this book. In Again But Better, I really wasn't a huge fan of Shane and Pilot together up until the very end, but with this book, I actually thought the romance enhanced the overall story. It didn't take away, it only just added some fun parts, some character development parts, and I thought it was just kind of cute, and that was what I was also hoping for within this book, was to see some of that romance, which personally I thought was executed really, really well. Both of the love interests we see have their very own distinct personalities and values and style of speaking. I'm not sure what that's called when you write that down, but I thought it was just really well done, and I enjoyed all the cute moments we got to see with them. Last thing I'm going to mention here is about the writing. It's no Addie LaRue, but I thought the writing was pretty good. I enjoyed the first person and the different characters. Like I said, I thought the tones were very good, and while most of the book we do follow a 5-day timeline, I do think that was dragged out a little bit, but overall I thought it was well done. However, I didn't give this book a 5 out of 5 stars for a reason, so let's move on to some of the more negative things. Number one, fake swearing. I can't even say this with a straight face. The fake swearing was so intercoursing bad, I can't believe it. Lauren, what the heck did you say? Yeah, I know. Exactly. It's weird, right? Well, one of the characters in this book subs out the F word for intercoursing. Make it make sense, okay? I hate fake swearing. The character that says this is 18 years old. I am also 18 years old, and I also 99.9% of the time do not use any swear words in my vocabulary. I just don't. And you know what? If people want to sub in fake other words for swear words like fudge or frick or something like that, by all means, do what you want. When characters have to make the stupidest changes of words for fake swearing words, it just drives me crazy in books, because as someone who is 18 years old and has many other 18-year-old friends and people around my own age, no one says that. No one. Absolutely no one. And so that just always annoys me whenever I see that in books. So that was a really, really small but really big annoying part for me in this book. Was not a fan in the slightest. Number 2, technically this isn't a spoiler because it is in the synopsis, but I will just very briefly lightly touch on it. And it is the little bit of magic we see in this book. This, I feel, wasn't done better than in Again But Better. I felt both times I didn't really like it. And in both books, I can understand the point of why it is there. And I do think that towards the end of the story, I can see the value of bringing that magic into the story. But that doesn't still mean I don't like the magic. I'm not going to say too much more in the non-spoiler section for that, but I just wish the execution and the introduction of it was a little bit better. And if you've read it, you probably know what I mean as well. I felt honestly it was just a little bit random, could have been written a little bit better in there and maybe in a different way. I think specifically the way the magic system is done in They Both Die at the End, where it's a part of the society, is a lot smarter, as the magical realism in that makes just more sense, where this was just very random. So for that reason, I wasn't a huge fan of that in both books. That's honestly all I really want to say for the non-spoiler section, because honestly those are basically more or less a lot of my thoughts on Better Together. Nothing crazily stood out to me except for a couple things which I'll get into in just a second in the spoiler section, but I feel like that's basically a pretty quick and easy way to sum up my initial thoughts of this book. 3.5 out of 5 stars. Some parts were very engaging, some parts felt a little bit flat for me. However, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the romance, I enjoyed the progress we saw with those main characters. I thought the writing was pretty good, and overall it's a great introduction for a summer read, I feel like, and so for that reason, I feel it deserves the 3.5 rating I gave it. And if it does interest you, I would encourage you to take a look at it. And I would say that it is better than Again But Better. Now, let us jump into spoilers. So like I kind of just said, I feel like a lot of my non-spoiler thoughts are pretty accurate to the non-spoiler ones, other than a couple of plot things, which I'll get into in just a second. I really enjoyed the storylines of both Ciri and Jamie. I liked following them. I thought they were both written differently and had good chemistry together, and as someone who has a sister, I can understand the sister dynamic, and I thought that was well done, especially given all of their circumstances. I liked the love interests. I thought the parents were written well. They're horrible people, but I thought they were written well. I'll get into more of them later, but just yikes. A little bit more about like the pacing-ish of this book, or what I liked and didn't. Like I said before, from the 0% to 25%, I really enjoyed this book and was flying through the beginning. Then when the magic got introduced up until roughly 50%, that 25 to 50% mark, I started to lose interest in the book a little bit, and that's kind of where I felt was the worst part of the book. I felt it could have been done better there. Then again, I'm not sure what I would have wanted to see, just not that. Like I said in the non-spoiler section, the magic in Again But Better and in Better Together, I feel is very much on the same level. It's thrown out of nowhere, and it's to force two characters to consider different perspectives. So I can understand it. However, that doesn't mean I liked it. I started to understand more of it and why it was of value towards the end, but I wish it was almost not in there. I wish it was done more authentically, or something just needed to be changed for me to like that, and since it's the way it is, I didn't really like that. So I'm hoping in her coming books she changes this trope of throwing magic in there, kind of just for the sake of moving the plot in a certain direction. I wasn't a fan of it, that's just my opinion. From the 50% mark to the 80% mark was probably like my favorite time overall in the story, really understanding both of the characters and their motives and values and who they trust and who they are. I really did enjoy that throughout the entire story. And then it kind of went a little bit downhill once the big reveal happened, when the parents came together and they kind of explained explained the magic thing that happened to them and whatever else. I feel like it almost could have been done a little bit better, other than the epilogue, which I did like. I wish certain parts were a little bit less dragged out. I do think that this story should not have a happy ending entirely because of how messy the family dynamics really are. However, I just wish that we saw more of the parents and their arcs in this story, and I would have liked more flashbacks or maybe even a chapter or two of their perspective. I feel like that's something that very much elevated a book like The Sun Is Also a Star by getting small points of views from other people in the story, and I feel something like that would have also elevated Better Together because of these other characters that do play a pivotal role in the story. So the fact that we only start to see their redemption all the way towards the end, I think if we had some more meaningful conversations with the parents throughout the story, I would have liked to see that, rather than just being like the stereotypical YA parents that don't do all that much. And so while they are very much involved in the story, I feel like they're also not at the very same time. While I am not someone who can relate to how realistic the divorced parents' situation was, I do wish we saw more of them and their history as a family and separately, and just more history or more conversations with them to make the story of their like arc towards the end a little bit more believable and something like that. Also, the fact that their mom, or Ciri's mom, or however you want to describe it, literally convinced her own daughter that Jamie was fake is so, like, I want to just say it's very manipulative. Literally, as Jamie was in Ciri's body, literally crying, being like, "Mom, are you sure Jamie's fake?" As Jamie herself, and her mom's like, "Yes, sweetie, she is." Kind of was just like, damn, that's a low moment. And so I do think that the meeting of Ciri and Jamie, when Ciri literally was like, "You're real, what the heck?" As manipulative as that is of her mother, it was very interesting to read about, and I thought it was very well done in the way Christine constructed it. So that's why I feel like part of this is very interesting, because you have such intense family dynamics throughout this whole book. I just wish there was almost more family dynamics throughout the book rather than just an underlying plan almost. So I felt like since this book does place so much emphasis on the sisters and them as individual people and their relationship, I would have liked to see almost more family dynamics wound in there, and just seeing more of the parents and how they feel in general. A last couple things to touch on, I just want to say, I already said I hate the fake swearing. One other thing that also kind of bothered me, not bothered me, but just could have been better, was the fact that Jamie is literally a comedian, yet her comedy isn't funny. And I mean that, like, if we were watching this as a movie, I'm sure I would be laughing, there would be some funny jokes, but the way it was written in the book, I felt could have been done better as well, because I wasn't laughing at any of the comedy sections. I was just kind of reading it as if it was just normal dialogue, nothing too crazy funny in there. So I wish that was done a little bit better. One last thing I'm just gonna mention that was kind of cringy was how Timothée Chalamet was just in the book. Like, where did he come from? And like, I felt that was like really random. Like, I wish they would have picked someone else almost. It was just kind of weird that Timothée Chalamet of all people was in the book. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like that was just kind of weird but funny to read about. So either way, overall, I'm sorry if my thoughts are a little bit all over the place for the spoiler section, but I really did enjoy reading about Ciri and Jamie and their arcs and how they have their problems and how they're still not perfect by the end of the story. But just seeing both of their growth from the very beginning all the way to the end, I think was really great to see, and personally I thought it was well done. So while this book is not my all-time favorite, I enjoyed it, and if you do want to read it, I would encourage you to do so, because I know I had a great time, and while I know there are a lot of negative reviews for this book, if anything I said resonates with you, I would encourage you to read it because I had a fun time with it. Overall, 3.5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this book. I look forward to more videos and books by Christine, and hopefully her next book is more well received by people, but I do think in the end that Better Together is better than Again But Better. That is a mouthful. Anyways, I'm gonna conclude this video here, but thank you so much for joining me on yet another video. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope I captured enough about this story that it all makes sense. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and please comment down below your opinions on this book, if you've read it, if you plan to read it, and what your thoughts really are. Anyways, I will see you all very soon in my next video. Thank you, and until then, bye.